And after that, at 4 p.m. Pacific, patch notes. They're
patch
not quite
notes
complete,
哦 ，patch notes 会在今天出
nice details to chew on.
OK，patch notes 会在今天出。
We've got a lot to cover today, but first, another announcement. When the third edict launches on the 29th, we'll be having a free weekend
会有
for
那个
Path of
free
Exile2.
weekend， 那个时候会
That's
有
right.
免费
Path
活
of
动，
Exile2 will be free for the first time without requiring an early access key.
免费玩
The
3
free
天。
weekend will end on September the 1st, so you'll have plenty of time to give the game a try. All right, let's get started with Act 4. The story continues from the end of Act 3. Doryani has agreed to help you find an ancient weapon that can be used against corruption, the instrument of the Third Edict. The weapon was broken in ages past, but he believes that the pieces may be found in the Karui archipelago, the home of the Karui tribes. You will need to journey to Kingsmarch,
Kingsmarch
hire a
租一
ship,
艘船。
and set sail. When you open the map, you can choose to sail anywhere you like. Act 4 is completely non-linear, and you can visit the
不
islands
是
in any
线
order you
性的，你
choose.
可以去解任何一个你喜欢的
Will。you visit the pristine beaches of Whakapanu Island? The Karui whisper of a curse that afflicts all who travel there. Perhaps it's related to the weapon you seek. Or maybe you will visit the volcanic shores of the Isle of Kin. The Kin have been more restless recently, mining for sulfite and driven by some dark force. Perhaps you will choose to consult with one of the local Karui tribes. Their ancient wisdom could hold clues to finding the Third Edict. No matter where you choose to go, you will fight dangerous beasts, find fabulous treasures,
OK， 买了超棒的宝物，然后开一堆蓝装出来。
and battle
谢谢你。
incredible bosses.
A challenger!
这跟娜塔莉有关吧？
Seize your soul!
这跟死之母没
There are
关
8
吗？紫
islands to
色
discover, each teeming with its own flora and fauna.
哇，有8个岛
Act
屿
4
哦。
contains over 100 new monster types, 16 new areas, 12 new bosses, and plenty of other interesting encounters. There's a huge amount to show, but we're not going to spoil too much here. We want to give you a chance to discover it all for yourself. What happens after Act 4? Well, until now you had to repeat the entire campaign again before you could face the endgame. But after adding Act 4, the game is far too long to make you do that. We needed something else to do in between the end of Act 4 and the endgame. So what else could we do? Add 3 new mini-acts, of course, and we're calling them the Interludes. The Interludes are a set of 3 temporary side stories that will be included in the game until Act 5 is released, that will take you to level 65 where the endgame can begin. The first interlude sends you on a journey back to Ogham. Renly has been leading the efforts to rebuild Ogham Village after the defeat of Count Geonor, but there's a new danger afoot. The nearby town of Holton is surrounded by an impenetrable darkness, and each night their corrupted townfolk emerge to raid the local farmlands. You'll discover new areas.
看起来好像那个哦，
And new bosses.
血腥小镇叫什么？绯红小镇。
You'll need to find your way through the darkness, uncover the source of corruption,
Soon you will serve
Oh,
our
okay.
master.
and defeat it.
Yes, I shall dance with their corpse.
And that's just the first interlude. The second interlude will have you return to the Vasteri Desert, where Asala has been given a sacred duty. When the skies align, the gifting of water requires a chosen Sekima to meet with the Selkari, guardians of the sacred water, but they're nowhere to be found. You will need to track down the Selkari, find those responsible for disrupting the gifting,
然后他有说这个3
fight even more
个，
new
这个
bosses,
3个之后会，
discover the
之后会
secrets
删
of the
掉。
ancient ritual,
我觉得应该会可以变成支线任务留在
discover new
游戏里面吧，
locations,
要不要解都可以那样子。
and ultimately help Asala carry out her sacred duty. Now for Interlude 3. As Royal Thaumaturge of the Vaal, Doryani had plans within plans to save his people from the cataclysm perpetuated by Atzeri's lust for power. One such plan involved sealing a group of willing Vaal deep in a great mountain vault near the home of the Asmeri, deep enough to survive the cataclysm. Even though thousands of years have passed, he believes that their descendants may still live, and may be key to defeating the beast. The journey up the mountain will be dangerous. New foes stand in your way. And the further up the mountain you venture, the colder it will become. Explore caves of ice and enter the vault
冰
itself.
雪地形。
Who can say what you will find within? The interludes are 6 to 7 areas each and generally include 4 boss fights as well. When you put that together with Act 4, that adds up to 35 new areas in the campaign and 24 new bosses. It's worth making clear that the interludes are temporary. When Act 5 and 6 are added, the interludes will be going away. These are side stories after all, but don't worry, the bosses and areas that make up the interlude are all part of the endgame. We're not just going to throw them away. And with that, we don't need cruel difficulty anymore. We do know that it was a pretty big chore to have to play through the campaign multiple times on each character, and this was a huge reason that the campaign could feel like a bit of a slog when playing through again. But we do also have another new feature to address that particular concern as well. So let's talk about sprinting. In 030, when you hold down the dodge roll button, your character will go into a sprint after they finish the roll. This is available on all character classes, and there's no limitation on how long you can sprint for. The primary purpose of this feature is to make navigating areas faster when out of combat. Because of that, if you do take a hit while sprinting, you'll fall to the ground. The best idea is to use a skill when you see monsters. That'll break you out of the sprint so you can engage with no danger. If you do need to run away from monsters, just hold spacebar. You won't be vulnerable during the roll, and you're faster while sprinting than basically any monster in the game, allowing you to retreat from combat.
你那弄哪有？
Sprint is a pretty significant change to PoE 2's gameplay. What I like most about it is that we can accelerate the pace of the game for those who want that, without having to compromise on PoE 2's more visceral combat systems. Okay, so that's the new extensions to the campaign, but there's a whole giant league to play through as well. I'll leave that to Mark to talk about later. And that's because what I want to talk about now is the new stuff for your characters. And probably one of the biggest new systems here is with the support gems. Now, support gems are one of the most interesting elements to creating a build. They're what enables so many interesting mechanics and different ways to play. But PoE 2's support gem system has just never been quite right. One of the major issues is the limitation of only having one support gem of each type on your character. We didn't want builds to just become using the same 5 most powerful supports in every skill. The problem with this design, though, is that it's actually working against using multiple skills in your build. If you can only use each support gem on one skill, it means that you're encouraged to go all in on that one ability. And we want to encourage you to combo your abilities, something needed to change. So with that in mind, we've removed the restriction of having one of each support gem per character.
OK，
You can
古
now
灵军
use
团
as
莫
many
名其妙被
copies as
削
you
弱
like.
了。古灵军
This
团
should
问号
drastically increase the amount of possible builds and increase the amount of skill diversity.
古灵
There are a lot of potential builds that suffered from the previous restriction. For example, a poison build previously couldn't add poison to more than one skill. They couldn't use stacking poison on more than one skill either. This severely limited your ability to combo with anything outside of the specifically designed poison archetype.
OK，
But now
狙
you
击
can.
加回旋剑。
Many utility
螺
skills
旋剑设计
previously
太
couldn't
弱
scale to
了，螺旋剑
endgame
为什么不能
because the
散弹
supports
啊？
that would
这
make
白
them
痴
scale
设计
were more useful to use in other skills. You would never speed up killing Palm with martial tempo, when you would much rather use it on your primary skill instead. There are more examples like this all over the place. In addition to that, though, we thought there wasn't enough feeling of progression in the supports as you went through the game.
干不要！
There were only 3
不要！
tiers of supports,
我
and
不
many
要
of the
辅
most
助保持
important
等
ones
级，
have
我
been
不
out of
需
tier 1.
要。
Also, there were
我
no
不要
strict
这
upgrades,
个。
meaning that upgrading supports when you ran out of sockets required quite a lot of thinking. In order to solve these issues, we now also have multiple levels of many supports as you go through the game. For example, double barrel support gives you an extra bolt, but at the cost of 30% less reload speed. At tier 2, the penalty gets lowered to 20%. But then at tier 3, the support gem gets something new. It now reloads automatically when you heavy stun an enemy. In some cases, the highest tiers might work a little differently, and you'll have to decide if you like the upgrade or not, depending on your build. For example, rapid casting. The first couple of levels gives 15, then 20% increased cast speed. But then at tier 3, it changes to a new approach. For each different spell you cast in the last 8 seconds, you get 10% increased cast speed, which could be a pretty big bonus if you use a lot of different spells.
OK，
So that's
钢
pretty
琴
good for
手，
upgrades through the
换我们
campaign.
法术也要钢琴
But we
手了
wanted。to add a little more spice to the endgame for supports too. And that's where our new system, lineage supports, comes in. You can think of these like unique items, but for supports.
这个可
There
不
are
可以出
supports
在
that are
PoE
only
1
available
上
in
啊
game,？but they're much more powerful.
我其实现在应该要，我是不是要装惊讶，装成第一次看到？看，传奇中辅助宝石，看，我突然发现我对这个都没有，是这一次影片要怎么剪啊？我都没有惊讶感了，完蛋！这样我们要装第一次看到，我们要装第一次看到，来，看这是什么？你的法术会回响2次，哇，那你可以，它可以回响3次彗星，它是什么？Wild Shield 你可以
Some of them are fairly rare.
达拉的渴望，你可以放在你的辅助宝石里面。Fastball， 你在击杀敌人的时候可以填弹。哇哦！自爆图腾！哇操！莱基亚塔的河流可以直接颠倒敌人抗气。
Throughout the endgame, so there's a lot of power to find out there. Now, the new support gems are certainly going to open up a lot of builds. But of course, we have a huge range of improvements to individual character classes as well. As well as adding new skills, we had a big focus on buffing existing skills so that they can scale well.
哇，这是有料，这是有料。
There's a huge amount to cover here, so we're not going to discuss everything. We're just going to quick fire through some of the coolest changes. We wanted to make cold a more useful element on the Ranger, so we've expanded the cold tools available. As well as increasing its range, escape shot now creates fragments of ice whenever it hits the ground.
这逃脱射击现在会爆炸。哎呦，不错嘞，不错，
But not only that, we added an ice fragment support
碎片
that
新
creates more
辅
of
助
them
宝
when
石
killing frozen enemies.
你击杀冰冻的敌人之后会产生冰霜
And
碎
a new
片。
buff skill called ice tip arrows that allows all your arrows to create ice fragments.
它是 buff 技能，它类似弹幕那种，下3次攻击会附加
To take
冰
further
霜。
advantage of the ice fragments, freezing salvo has been upgraded to shoot additional cold arrows towards every fragment.
双重骑射现在会随着冰霜碎片更多哦 ，God， 好强哦
We've also modified snipe to consume frozen from enemies, dealing a huge amount more damage, giving you a nice ice single target option.
好累哦。
And something you might notice about this is that the bonus is a lot higher against bosses. This is actually a change you'll see throughout the entire game. Since it's a lot harder to freeze a boss, you should get a bigger reward.
狙击敌人必暴击。
Another theme you'll see throughout the game is making movement feel better. Toxic growth is a skill that was pretty cool, but a bit annoying to use with the jump that it had. Now toxic growth is a
你们
range
也
skill,
装一
so
下
you
第一
can
次看到
spam
好不好？
laser.
你们想要被罚30万是不是啊？你们也
And
装
we've
第一次
also
看
added
到
a new poison，
现在开
skill
始
while we were at it.
现在聊天室开始
Toxic
装第一次
Domain.
看到。
It
流线
creates
领
a
域
small area around you that makes all your attacks create toxic growth pustules.
哦，
that
真
attach
的
to
假
monsters.
的？会产生毒脓包哎！
Another skill that was annoying to use was electrocuting arrow.
变形
It's
剑
now
士
just a regular arrow, making it easy to use. But it also means you can support it with projectile supports. And it now also has area of effect, making it a tool for more than just single target, and allowing it to scale into the endgame.
本来有德鲁伊，我一定要玩德鲁伊
Also
的
added a。new
他现在没德
spirit
鲁伊，我要玩
reservation
谁啊
called？ Mirage Archer.
要玩召唤吗？
This
我要
is a
相信
meta
你是
skill
召
that
唤吗
allows you to create shadowy clones of yourself to use a skill of your
哇，幻
choice.
影射手 ，OK， 我要玩一次召唤吗？哦，
Of
我要
course,
去
one
玩
of the
召
other
唤
big
吗
problems？the Ranger had was survivability. Evasion was the weakest of the 3 defenses.
必然
We
3
wanted
B
to
3的武
change
器
that.
防御属性最弱，别再乱讲好不好？
Currently, evasion
护
doesn't
甲还最
evade
烂
all
嘛。
types of hits in the game, so you're still vulnerable to things like slams or unblockable attacks. To make evasion characters more tanky, we're adding a new mechanic called deflect.
鹰爪 ，Play，
Unlike evasion, deflect works on everything. And if you successfully deflect a hit, you take 40% less damage.
那全部攻击效果
Items
都有
can
的
now
法
give you a
压。
mod that gives you some amount of deflection based on your evasion.
物品基于你的闪避给你翻
And there's
转
a bunch of it
翻转
available
的
on
效
the passive
果。
tree too. Deflection is rolled in addition to evasion, so this is an upgrade for regular hits too.
哦，全压。
And unlike
哇
evasion, there's no
，No
maximum
way，
chance.
全压，
You can reach 100% deflect against all hits
可以对
if
所有
you
击
spec
中
into it
全
enough.
压。
Of course,
Oh.
this is a buff that helps all dex
390
characters, so the
全压。
mercenary and the monk, but especially the huntress are seeing big defense boosts from this as well. Speaking of defensive mechanics, let's talk about block and parry. Now, one of the big
对啊，
concerns of
偏
the
斜
release
跟
of the
闪避
huntress
用
was
分镜
parry
制，
feeling
它不
unreliable.
是直接爬树。我刚刚也在想这件事情，
One of the big reasons for
其实这件事情之前不知
this is there's a lot of hits
道
that are not，
真不知道。所以这样子来说啊，其实偏转也没那么好用。
So a huge
但也合
balance
理
change
啊
we're，making
这
is
个
that
这个
now
机制如果
everything
好
is，blockable
如果跟之前的
except for
法压一样好拿的话，
specifically
太
unblockable red
奇
flash
怪了。
skills that bosses use.
他们到底对格挡有什么？这游戏有翻滚，我怎么会想要按格挡，然后让我左下角晕眩条满？晕眩，你们就不要设计晕眩条嘛！你们要设计要让玩家格挡，你就不要设计晕眩条嘛！你就让玩家比如说格挡还要承受68、78的伤害之类的。然后不要有晕眩条，你有那个晕眩条的一天，玩家都不会去按那个格挡。哥们，不要再对那个格挡有什么，你那格挡有晕眩条，谁会用？
We've also added a new skill called Forge Hammer. This skill throws a molten hammer that does a slam at a distance.
OK， 美国队长，
You can recall the hammer by using the skill again if you like, but the cooler thing to do is to use a war cry near it. Using a war cry makes the hammer explode, making a bunch of volcanic fishes around.
OK， 美国队长。
Volcanic fishes re-trigger when you slam them, so it's a great skill to make a flaming arena to fight a boss. We also got Perfect Strike to have much larger area of effect. And changed Molten Blast to not always force you to move forward. Trust me, it feels a lot better to use now. The skill now has massively boosted chance to ignite monsters as well. And you're going to want to ignite monsters due to a new glory skill called Ancestral Cry.
OK， 先祖战吼
Ancestral Cry charges up with glory by igniting monsters, invoking King Kalm's favor. After you do,
其实看起来蛮
channel Kalm's ancestral
好啦，影片干这是啥小？
attack will be ancestrally boosted with fire. Your very steps will explode, triggering volcanic fishes. And molten balls will erupt from your attacks. Warrior shield skills were another area we wanted to improve. Now that we've got sprint, we actually don't need to have a cooldown on shield charge anymore. It now also does more damage the further away you are when you use it. Shield wall got significantly upgraded AoE. Also, you can shield charge right through it to trigger all the walls.
OK。
We also added a new shield war cry. Fortifying Cry gives you a defensive buff, but it also builds up charge on your shield that empowers your other shield skills.
就这个战好之后，你下一次盾牌技能会比较痛。
Doesn't require timing in order to use. Just wait for your shield to charge up and block.
OK， 我不知道这个技能是什么。我那个龙岩应该是我没用过啊，龙岩屏障。
And we changed the Sunder interaction with Armor Break. It now also gives a Sundered Armor debuff that makes enemies take 40% extra physical damage.
哇，40%哦，给那么多
Great for bosses.
啊！Sunder 现在给40%物理哦。先祖战士图人进行相当大改动，更像绝招。
Summoning an ancestor to fight for you was a big deal.
叫你老爸来打架是一件大事。
3 endurance charge to summon, and massively buff
这个技能要花3颗耐力球。
Now scales your weapon damage too.
随着你的武器伤害提升，哦，现在会随着你武器伤害提升。
If you build around generating endurance charges, you can summon an entire forest of totems. In order to make that easier, we added some new sources of endurance charges. There's now a support to make Perfect Strike generate charges, and a support for generating endurance charges from heavy stuns as well. Speaking of totems, we wanted to upgrade the Warbringer. Among the other changes we've made to this class, Answered Call now gives an extra totem, and the spirits have just been generally buffed in many ways. Use it with your limitless ancestral warrior forest to make an army of Peru that would make 2 Howl and Warcaller's Bellow support, so that you can get all the benefits with one.
你战吼可以让那个实体爆炸，然后你无限战吼。
And Jade no longer removes the Jade when getting hit, making a much better defense.
有人在点这个吗？之前战争是完全不会点这个，对不对？这个翠玉防御。
Accuracy was always intended to be something that warriors didn't need to care about very much so long as they're in close combat. But unfortunately, that's not currently the case. This was particularly annoying with skills like Bone Shatter, which you certainly don't want to mess with. So we significantly buffed your chance to hit at close ranges when you don't have much accuracy. Warriors shouldn't require any accuracy investment in order to hit with close range attacks now. We also wanted to improve armor. Now, one of the major weaknesses of armor is the inability to defend against elemental damage. In order to mitigate this, we're adding a lot more of the stat that allows your armor to defend against elemental damage. It's now available on items and in a lot more places.
哇，好强哦！旧版勇士哎，看我真的装不起来，好难装哦！哇，旧版勇士哎。
One of the most important improvements we've made in 030 is to declunk the action and flow of shooting crossbows. You can now reload crossbows without any movement penalty. But not only that, all skills that can be used while moving now slow you for a shorter amount of time.
都缓速都变少了。哇，这样电喷变更爽
With both of these changes put together, the run and gun playstyle feels much better. It's hard to explain how important this change is for the feel of the class. The Mercenary is also a good chance to talk about how we're rebalancing to make comboing skills much better. Take Shock, for example. It buffs damage and lasts 4 seconds right now, but that isn't really giving you enough time to take advantage of it. If you're going to add a lightning skill into a build that otherwise wouldn't use one, we need to make mechanics like this much better. So we've increased shock duration on monsters to last 8 seconds. And skills like Plasma Blast, which are intended to be good at shocking enemies, now increase the damage bonus by a lot more.
一个大感电，然后持续8秒。这时候
You'll find changes like this all around the game.
Okay.
Chill now lasts 8 seconds, giving you more of a reason to weave in cold damage. Freezing skills are better at freezing. Burning skills need to cause burns that last longer. But making skills like Permafrost Bolts and Incendiary Shot double down on how they're supposed to be used, it makes using them in your build alongside other skills much more.
不会有人想要每一团白怪按4个技能。
We're also making sure to buff specific combos
不要再坚持 combo fight 好不好？
The freeze explosions
要不然你就把 combo fight 放在
nearby
只有
enemies.
打 boss 才会需要啊。
And using high velocity rounds with armor break will now fragment the opponent's armor. This causes monsters to take a portion of high velocity rounds damage with every subsequent hit, even tiny pellets. So that means following it with a shotgun blast is way more effective. Now there's a lot more buffs to crossbow skills, but for now I'm just going to talk about the new one we added, the Mortar Cannon. This one lets you socket any grenade skill, and using it will summon a cannon which loads and then fires the grenade you choose. Another issue on the Mercenary were banners. They were just not very good, so we're doing a big upgrade to them. They now last longer, don't disappear when moving out of them, and we removed the Valor mechanic. They now just give a much more consistent and stronger buff, and you can use them when you get enough glory.
Okay, Banner 改强，但我不在乎，Banner
On
没人
which
在
one of
乎
the。main focuses was making various minion types more useful to use together.
召唤改强，召唤改
Melee
强。
minions in particular were just not that great compared to ranged ones. As a starting point, we just straight up removed the requirement for minions to
Okay,
have
召唤
accuracy.
没有命中问题。
Attack minions now always hit, which makes them way better. Brutes got some good numeric buffs, but we also added a new command skill with a war cry that intimidates enemies and detonates any frozen monsters and allies around you in a big cold explosion. We've also changed the Frost Mage's command skill to an ability that adds ice armor to your other minions,
就
adding
没
a
有
layer
冰
of
弹的哦。
defense.
可是没有冰弹好像怪怪的欸，没有冰弹有比较强吗
The ice armor also makes the minion count as frozen, so the Brute's war cry can detonate.
？OK， 它可以。
Unearth was changed to work on corpses of your dead skeletons, allowing you to summon the minions more easily in boss fights. And they also got a new jump ability, allowing them to get in the
他们
combat
是改成这样，施助值可以直接强制复活骷髅。
Raise Spectre was
施
also
助值
feeling
按下
pretty
就可以
weak
直接
for the
强制
spirit
复活骷
boss
髅，
fight.
跟我昨天理解不一样。
To be honest, we were a little afraid of these when we first balanced them.
哇，
We've
他
both
施助值
decreased the
按一下
spirit
所有
cost
骷
for
髅爬
large
起
range of
来。
monsters, and we've significantly increased Spectre damage too. They should feel a lot more impactful.
我昨天梦到，哎呀，梦到的，
There's
哎呦
also a lot of，new
哎呦，
spellcaster
梦到的
weapons。with newer cult skills. But I'll just talk about one of them that I thought was particularly cool. The Reaping Staff is actually a wicked scythe that gives you a new
收
ability
割
called
长杖，镰
When
刀
an。enemy is low in life, you can dash forward and rake enemies with the scythe to cull them instantly, healing you. It can also inflict critical weakness on enemies too. Now, there's a lot of balance changes in the Witcher's Ascendancy classes, but I'll just talk about 2 of them for now. On the Blood Mage, you were previously required to spend your first points on Sanguimancy, which really was supposed to be the downside for being able to access the powerful abilities on the rest of the class. In order to make picking the Blood Mage a better early option, we've made Sanguimancy free, unlocking the power of the rest of the class immediately. On the Infernalist, the Demon form wasn't something people were really using because you lost your weapon stats while transformed. Well, you no longer do, so it's a much better option now.
恶魔现在可以拿武
On the
器。
Monk, the wind skills needed a big upgrade for sure. Staggering Palm can now stack up its duration if you use the skill multiple times in a row.
浴火师开。
So you can keep the effect of all your skills throwing up wind much more easily. Wind Blast had the purpose of building up to dazing an enemy, but dazing just wasn't worth all that effort. Now it just dazes on hit, meaning a single Wind Blast will make all your skills stun enemies more easily. Following up with Vaulting Impact on a dazed enemy previously did a bunch of stun, Now it allows you to break your enemy's stance. When their stance is broken, following up with a fast attack will do way more damage.
Okay.
A cool build that certain people always enjoyed in PoE 1 was hand-to-hand combat, but until now we just didn't have a real way to make it viable.
普攻吗？
Well, that changes now. The monk, as a true martial artist, now has the ability to learn the hollow palm technique, a keystone that lets you use all quarterstaff skills while unarmed.
空掌之后也可以使用任何的所有的杖技
All quarterstaff attacks now have a special unarmed version, and you get further bonuses to all your attacks from stacking energy shield and evasion on your character.
OK， 感觉这个空掌后面应该蛮
we
强的。
also added to the monk section of the tree is Walker of the Wilds. This changes mana leech to work with elemental damage instead of physical,
你的魔头从
which is
物理
pretty
改
useful
改
for those
成
elemental attacks the monk
可
has.
以耶
But it works well for the ranger too.
可以耶，它都有设计一个打拳的动作
Now,
哎。
one of the least used ascendancy classes in the game is the
沙拉
acolyte
武
of
真大改
Chiyuwa,
强。
so we knew we needed to make some changes here. One of the key things we had to do was make the chaos damage that the acolyte can do much more useful. So we've added a new skill allowing chaos damage to ignite, shock, chill,
混沌伤害
and
可以点
freeze,
燃冰花能
embracing
改
the
变，
elemental prowess of the
这
monk
没
in
什
a
么
truly
用。这个其
chaotic
实没
fashion.
没有很有用。
In addition, he can make all of his chaos damage leech,
啊，
and
但
will
是这游
buff
戏的
into the
渗透那
breach
么
and
烂。
embrace the darkness by moving the effects of the 4-point nodes into the base skills. He also gains a new notable, Grasp of the
OK，
Void, which leaves
Darkness
void
直接
illusions
变
behind
成
you as
一
you
点有
dodge
之
roll.
前4点的效
If
果，
they're
这个
killed,
就
they
有
do
料
massive
了。
explosions of darkness, dealing damage to everything in sight.
干嘛啦
Now let's talk about Sorceress skills.
？Sorceress，
One of the things we wanted to improve on the Sorc is the ability to use multiple elements together more effectively.
主播这游戏可以盾眼吗？
Now, this might seem small, but one of the things pushing
感
me
觉下乌拉
towards
有，
using a
但是
single
下乌拉
element
改
is
强很。
debuffs like elemental quizzes,
不
which
行，要
lower
看
resistances
Pinnacle
of a
啊，
single
看一下
element.
Pinnacle 才知道。
In order to fix that,
刚刚那个
we made
改得
quite a
好
lot
好
of
好
game-wide
碎哦。
changes to these kinds of mechanics to broaden what they apply
就这样，
to.
就这样了。
So, for example, there's no longer 3 curses for fire, ice, and lightning. Instead, there's just a single curse that buffs all 3 at the same time.
OK， 元素要害。
And things like Frost Bomb, which gave you cold exposure, now give elemental exposure.
哦，全
You can
部
use it to buff any of your
哦，
other
给
skills.
全部元素负债哦。它现在元素负债只有一种，就
We
叫
also wanted to
Elemental
make switching between different
Elemental
weapon
负
sets
债。
smoother,
OK，
so you can use different elemental staves more effectively. To do that, we've removed the weapon switch time, and now happens instantly. This applies game-wide too. Now, we didn't just want to stop there. We wanted to add some specific mechanics that work between different elements, and that's where elemental infusions come in. Certain skills can now drop elemental infusions. For example, when a frost bomb explodes, it leaves behind a cold infusion on the ground. After picking it up, you can spend it on one of any number of different skills to transform how they work.
啊，可以捡
Spark
起
will
来
create a
灌
nova of
注。
cold infused projectiles.
OK，OK，
Ice Nova will leave a chilled area on the ground. We
OK，
also added a new low-level skill that fires ice shards. Use it with cold infusion though, and the ice shards will explode. Orb of Storms now generates lightning infusions when you cast enough spells near it. And that's all spells, by the way, not just lightning.
哦，任何的法术都
Once you have one, you could cast a lightning flame wall, which adds both fire and lightning damage to all the projectiles that pass through it. Or power up Ember Fusillade with lightning, which will generate arcs to nearby enemies as each fireball hits.
你
Or maybe go lightning on
Sorceress
lightning.
改动这样子，啊，刚刚那加乌拉五针发生什么事？
And by infusing it, you can go full
啊，刚刚那
Palpatine.
加乌拉五针是什么？
Get fire infusions by blowing up monsters with living bomb. Then use them with Comet to summon a giant fire meteor from the sky. Or use it with Firestorm, which transforms it from a small area into a much bigger one. Firestorm is unique in that it can be infused by multiple different elements at the same time.
OK
Add an ice infusion to rain down ice at the same time as the fire.
OK，看这怎么
And
下
add
那个
lightning
毛毛
to
雨，
add
对不对
deadly？ strikes from the heavens into the mix.
从天而降致命闪电。
Or use it with all 3 to generate a storm.
OK，
that is
3种一起
truly
用，
apocalyptic.
哇！累积到3种一起用，
Cold
然
Snap
后
is
给我一个
basically
大的。
turned into Snap. Previously, you could use it to shatter ice, but now it works to detonate all of the different elemental ailments and makes them leave behind infusions.
引爆。OK， 引爆。
And just like how you could previously use it on Frostbolt, you can now also use it on Orb of Storms and Solar Orb to detonate those as well, which means you can create many infusions at once.
OK， 不错。combo 已经出来
We also
了，
have a
去
Spirit
把日耀
Reservation
球跟那个
and a support gem to help generate them too. On the passive tree, we've added quite a few new keystones to the Sorceress section. Here are a couple of examples. The Black Flame Covenant keystone converts your fire spells to chaos and causes your ignites to deal chaos damage. Your fire spells and ignites will also turn purple.
哦，也会变紫色哦。
The Ritual Cadence keystone causes your invocation skills to trigger more times. It makes them trigger periodically over a longer duration instead of one. Great for those auto bomb.
哦，它把它改成自动轰炸，不需要撑能量。可是它的释放频率就会变慢，也不错，也不错，让你不需要去搞那个，你就不用去点一大堆的那个释放频率的事情。OK。
Check out the old version. And here's the new version. It's a lot more dense and there's more interesting nodes than before. Now we probably can't go through too many of these in the livestream, so I'll just show you one from each class's area of the tree. We tried to be a lot more thematic with the new nodes. So for example, the Molten One's Gift. It lets the benefit of armor break apply to your fire damage. Or how about Last Stand, which gives you lots of stats as your situation becomes more and more desperate.
当你被包围，当你没有任何的生命药剂的时候，你会加25%攻击伤害。
Like for the Gemling Legionnaire, for example. You have crystallized immunities, which makes you immune to different status ailments, depending on which support gem color you have socketed the most.
OK， 要把你的3个辅助宝石配到相等。
is Sanguimatic Rituals. It allows arcane surges to generate life instead of mana.
增加生命恢复率。
To be used with the Blood Mage
OK， 这个可以配浴火师，把趁魔力恢复，然后把那个转成。
To convert all of your elemental damage to a specific element. You become a lightning archon when you spend enough mana. After which all your skills will be converted to lightning, and you will do extra lightning damage as well. We have ones for cold.
当你花过超过100%魔力的时候，你会变成。
Here's another cool one.
你会变成说伤害转成3片。
gives crit bonuses if you've triggered a skill recently, while also making crits generate more energy for triggers.
Okay.
Or maybe you'd like the Great Boar. It gives you a reason to stack dexterity to make you tougher.
它敏捷会给你生命跟。 然后反正没什么用啊，这版本也没有人要生命值。加你所有的5%宝石品质，感觉屠油的好选择。
Now another major change is attribute requirements. We felt like players probably had a few too many nodes and attributes and not enough in interesting passives. So we lowered attribute requirements.
OK， 所有技能的属性降低25%。哦，God， 终于，他们终于当人了。
Just need to allocate more strength, dex.
他们终于当人了哦。
Now there are way more changes than just these. These are just some of the cooler ones we wanted to show off, but I'd say that's just about enough for now. We're not even half done yet. So I think it's time that we talk about the League, the rise of the Abyssal. And to do that, I'd like to hand things over to Mark.
As you just saw, even though there are major changes to the campaign for this update, we want to make sure that every time you come back from expansion, each area feels different, with something extra going on. It is really important to make sure your experience when returning between expansions is fresh and filled with new content. And the way we did this was through leagues. Every expansion we make has a league, which not only has a fresh economy, but also has new content exclusively available in that league. So, let's delve into the details of what Path of Exile2's first official league is bringing to the table.
Okay.
The Abyssal are a race that have mastery of forbidden magics and necromancy. They were thought to be extinct, but have merely been biding their time underground. You first encounter signs of the Abyssal in Clarefell, where you discover that during the night, weaker members of the Undead Legion have been attacking the encampment. The townsfolk require your help to investigate where the monsters are coming from and put a stop to their attacks.
Out there, ancient creatures, lurking beneath the surface.
As you proceed through Rayclast, you'll find fissures in the earth connected to larger cracks. The monsters normally inhabiting the area are being affected by it, harmed by it even, having their souls eaten to strengthen the Abyssal underground. Monsters, the fissure closes and Abyssal emerge, angered by you killing their food. Once all those fissures have been sealed, the pit activates, and more Abyssal pour out. This is where the larger and more dangerous monsters reveal themselves, as hordes of Abyssal spew out from the pit to take your soul. If you kill a magic cat, then magic Abyssal arise. If you kill a rare, then a rare monster will emerge from the pit, having absorbed some or all of its modifiers for itself.
Okay.
This means the monsters emerging will generally be more difficult and more rewarding, as each modifier gives better rewards. If you are able to kill them all, the pit will seal shut. As each pit is closed, it reveals a potential reward. Abyssal troves will rise up out of the pits, allowing you to get some epic loot. Areas often contain many pits, with many fissures, and the amount goes up as you progress through the game.
感觉这机是刷图联盟哎，不需要单体能力，但是要好的生存能力跟清除怪能力。
to become infused with the dark necromancy, transforming them into
感觉
abyssal modifiers.
是一个刷图联盟。
For example, you defeat this monster with the Mana Siphoner modifier. Their soul is eaten by the pit, and a rare monster emerges. The Mana Siphoner modifier has transformed into Soul Siphoner, and is now amplified in danger and reward.
OK， 我刚刚看的那5正在技能。
interact with other monsters and mechanics. If you defeat a rogue exile that's near one, it'll be revived as a Lichborn that has multiple abyssal modifiers. Lichborn exiles even have their own unique jewel they can drop, if you are lucky enough to encounter and kill them.
If
an abyss spawns near a
他刚刚说
boss, killing it will summon a
他刚刚上面写那个流亡者带着 Hollow Mask。
Monsters imprisoned in essences near abyssal pits are affected by the abyss too. They will come with an additional new essence item that can be used to craft your
深渊
items.
金水，它效果是什么？你不要再，你跟我说一直跟我说有新奖励新的什么什么，那它的
Kill
效果是什
surface
么？
dwelling monsters,
展
kill
示
the
效
emerging
果，
abyssal,
不要再跟我说他们可以这样子，他们会获得什么效果？会给你更新。啊，奖励呢？那奖励是什么？那个精神效果是什么？现在告诉我。
As you complete abysses, you can find ancient pieces of bone, preserved from the remains of fallen Lichborn. These are one of the many rewards for your mission to seal the pits. You can use this on a rare item to imbue it with abyssal magic, adding a special hidden modifier to your item. But how do you reveal it? In Act 2 of the campaign, you'll encounter a new area.
隐匿词。
This area is overrun by the Abyssal and the Lost Men. After clearing through this area, you'll find the Well of Souls, a giant cavity with a massive vortex of souls.
干嘛？我每次开一次隐匿词，我就要过来一次这边，是不是啊？你们到底是？
So how do you
这是
reveal
为什
the
么
mods
你
on
们
your
POE 1 都已经知道现在可以直接用右键按了？
Obviously, just throw them in, right? Yes, that's exactly what you do. Before throwing it in, you are given the option of how you want to transform it, in the form of a choice of 3 different modifiers. Once you've chosen your desired mod, throw it in, where it will absorb the power of the souls, and the ominous creature will then retrieve it for you. These modifiers can be ones from the core mod pool, all the way through to specialized modifiers that cannot normally appear on items. During the campaign, you can use it as a way to more easily add useful existing mods. But during the endgame, there is a whole set of new and powerful mods you can add to your items.
为什么要这么多事情？
Like this mod for crossbows that allows you to place an additional ballista totem.
加一炮塔。
Or this one that adds spirit to your staff.
金葡萄，银葡萄。
Or this one that allows you to generate more combo with your quarterstaff skills.
你很诚实，所以我决定给你这个乐色。
Speaking of endgame, you can also use the system to craft waystones. With a preserved vertebrae fused into your waystones,
哦，我还要再丢一次。我做一张地图，我也要把它丢一次啊。
push difficulty and rewards to new heights.
干嘛？我还要进去，我还要等他帮我把那个图给叼回来哦。到底想怎样？
So you can avoid anything you don't think your character is capable of. With this modifier, the natural inhabitants of the area are all spawned near abysses, and there are up to 9 additional abyssal pits in the area, making it just a full-on abyss ruckus. Or this one, which causes the final abyssal pit in the area to always result in a boss encounter, be it either one underground or one that emerges out.
哦，有跟以前一样巫妖斩。
modifiers in total you can get from this crafting. That covers the new crafting mechanic. So what's left? Well, We talked about how when closing pits, you can get abyssal troves, but sometimes when closing an abyss, you'll reveal an underground cavern that leads to the abyssal depths. After jumping into the depths, you'll find an abyssal city, swarming with legions of the undead. When underground, every single rare abyssal enemy will have an abyssal modifier.
No way!
And at the end of the dungeon, you'll even find a rare with a more powerful Lichborn modifier. Once you're able to defeat this powerful rare, you can also find some nice rewards. Aside from the entire area being valuable due to the abyssal modifiers on monsters, it has its own specific drops too. One example is a set of lineage supports that can rarely be found in these depths, like Kurgel's Leash. This support empowers both you and your minions when you command, granting unholy might to you both. Another depth-specific outcome is a set of omen-like items that amplify your abyssal crafting. Additionally, we're adding some new sockettables that can drop from the abyssal depths. Take Ulaman's Gaze, which can be socketed into your armor. These are a bit special in that you can only have one equipped at a time, but give some pretty powerful effects. Think of them as almost a unique sockettable for your equipment. In the endgame, where you can still find depths, you also start to find a different type of underground chamber. In these areas, you'll find an ancient spire, a device being used by commanders of the abyssal factions to plunge Raycast into a lightless void.
现在在演什么夺宝奇兵呢？为什么会有那个滚球下来的？
Kill this commander and destroy the spire. There are 4 bosses in the Abyssal.
那个暴击幸运是对格挡的敌人暴击幸运，所以我不想念。OK， 哇，这个腰带上面有2个插槽。
It has 2 sockets. But hold on.
哦，腰带上面的插槽物品加87%效果。
This belt has a special mod that allows it to count as a different slot for the purpose of socketables. This one, for example, counts as a helmet.
哇，
I kind of want one that counts as a body armor. I wonder how rare that one is. You can also find this unique jewel, Undying Hate. This jewel transfers part of your passive skill tree into an abyssal version, and has multiple depths. The deeper it goes, the more of your passive tree is affected, allowing you to fulfill your fantasy of becoming part Abyssal Lich.
每一个 tribute 那个 tribute 这个是圣宗那个感觉，像圣宗珠宝那个感觉。好烂哦！刚刚那个看好急眼，好烂哦。
The next time you return to the Well of Souls with the finger in your inventory, your character will almost feel compelled. To do what, though, you might ask? To jump in. Items you threw in came back more powerful, right? So, what's the worst that could happen? Well, you will just have to find that one out for yourself. Along with the introduction of Act 4 and the Interlude, we will be adding 25 new endgames. These maps will contain all the new monsters and bosses we're adding, improving variety and giving you opportunities to experience the new boss fights many times. Let's take a look at some examples. Rock Pools is a map where you explore a shallow rocky coastline, surrounded by coral and filled with sirens. At the end is a giant Goblin King boss, ready to eat sulfite and squish you like a bug. Holton is an Emai township which has seen better days. Explore and clear the township to find a gothic, Reaper-like boss, with the ability to manipulate storms and fry you with both lightning and wither you with chaos.
哦，好帅哦！如果他是召唤物，那该有多好！但如果是这个东西召唤物，我一定每天召他，我一定只玩这个召唤物。
And final bosses of each interlude part, it would be a bit of a waste to just use them as regular map bosses. Instead, we'll be adding some new mechanics to the game. These start appearing pretty fast into the endgame and will help bridge the gap until you do your Pinnacle bosses. In the desert biome, you can encounter a wild sandstorm. 3 maps around the sandstorm contain a device you must activate. Upon doing this, the sandstorm's magic is disrupted, revealing the map inside and allowing you to access it and find the cause. This presents itself in the form of a boss, similar to the existing Citadel bosses. This boss is a Faradin Swordmaster, who has been blessed with the power of a time gem, allowing him to take his swordsmanship to the next level by replicating himself, maneuvering rapidly, and severing the fabric of time itself with his powerful slashes. In the water biome, you'll encounter a giant maelstrom. Where one of the maps surrounding the water biome connects to it, but the connection is obscured.
不是
You
我
must
我
run
变
the
快
maps
了，是你变
nearby,
慢了。
hoping to find a beacon, which will remove the maelstrom and reveal the connection to that map. Another example is this Vaal vault in the mountain biome. But how do we get inside? Running the adjacent maps to it will yield a key, which you can then use to gain access to this vault. Or
到目前为止都
you
不好
could
玩
just。trade for one, I guess. Use the key to dispel the powerful
现
forces
在听起来都不好玩。
leading to the Vaal
不是
elite
啦，你们
and
到底
their
有没有知道
rewards
玩
inside.
家要什么？玩家不是要你们那些地图集，然后哇有宝藏，然后有什么东西？根本重点是我们没有可复制性的策略。然后每一张地图赚的钱，有时候赚钱，有时候8个小时打不到一颗第一，我们没有可复制性的地图策略可以玩，这不是我们认识的 POE。POE 就是要有复制，可以一直不断复制，一直不断实行的一个策略，一直让你去做。我玩 POE 的感觉是，我们好像每个人都原始人，进去里面眼睛够，然后看张地图会不会出低。
From the boss sealed in the Vaal vault, we have Paquate's Pact, which supports your war cries, causing them
让你
to
的 war
inflict
cry
massive
根据
amounts of
力量
corrupted
来
blood
增加那个
at the
腐化
cost
之
of
血的
your
伤
own
害。
life. Additionally, some maps can now spawn summoning circles, a room resembling an Emai henge. Activating this henge will spawn bosses. It's as simple as that. We'll also be making changes to how affixes and waystones work, as the current prefixes equals good, suffixes equals bad iteration isn't quite hitting the mark. We tried something new here in Path of Exile 2, but after seeing the feedback, we decided we actually liked what we had in Path of Exile 1 more.
所以
Like Path of Exile 1, each affix will now be both difficult and rewarding. Waystone mods now grant an increase to the number of waystones dropped, and an additional specific upside attached to it. This means as you roll your map, they will continue to get more difficult and more rewarding, and allow you to customize the difficulty and rewards of your maps better. For example, the Frostbitten mod, which causes enemies to deal cold damage, also increases the rarity of items dropped as its upside. Whereas the Of Venom suffix modifier, which causes enemies to poison on hit, has the upside of granting increased pack size. Some maps will end up having a lot of rarity, some a lot of pack size, and others will just have a mixture of everything.
就跟一代一样
Due to
啊。
now having more modifiers granting difficulty, we will of course be reducing the difficulty per
那
modifier
你们
to
现在
account.
要他们把这个鱼图给丢下去，也太浪费了啊！这个整个鱼图也设计那么久，然后花那么多心思，现在把那个整个鱼图砍掉，回到一代也是很蠢的啊！就中规就理，就是这个鱼图设计就是不适合 POE， 就是不适合 diablo-like， 它可能比较适合那种 roguelike 的游戏类型。我觉得他们融合太多那种，你看要像魂系，然后又要像 roguelike， 然后又要像 diablo-like， 然后又要融合自己一代的 POE-like， 就是这个游戏是一个不好玩的缝合怪。
and kill one of the bosses in a map.
你们自己拍这个画面的时候，你们觉得这个画面太夸张？你们不觉得快瞎了吗？这个调一下那个光晕好不好啊？
We're making some changes to accessibility here too. Currently, access to most Pinnacle content requires the same key at the easiest and most difficult version of the content. This creates a negative feeling where at lower difficulties, instead of wanting to run the content, you're often better off just selling it to someone.
完蛋了，他们要简单难度跟高难度掉的东西不一样。简单难度跟高难度掉的东西不一样。
Each content will now drop splinters, which will not form into singular items. Instead of using the singular combined item in the realm gate, you can now just bring your splinters. Upon inserting the splinters into the realm gate, an interface will appear, allowing you to pick your difficulty, and you'll notice each difficulty has a different entry cost. This means if you want to run easier difficulties, it costs less, which also allows you to run this content much sooner into the endgame. Because these encounters now just require splinters, their corresponding atlas tree no longer affects the difficulty of them, and has been changed to purely affect the content and maps on the atlas. The Arbiter of Ash works a bit different. Instead of requiring splinters, he still needs crisis fragments. We now have only 2 difficulties of the Arbiter. The first, requiring the existing fragments obtained from citadels. The second, Uber Arbiter, requires calamity fragments.
Okay.
These come from citadel bosses also, but only once you've allocated the maximum number of points in your boss atlas tree, ensuring those citadels are at their highest difficulty level. Since we're talking about pinnacle content, we also felt that the leveling curve in the late game was a bit too steep. We've smoothed this out a bit so that it's easier to get to the mid-90s. We've also added some new in-game unique items. Let's take a look at a couple.
Okay, 新传奇。
Thunderfist is a pair of gloves that grants crackling power, a skill which empowers your unarmed attacks, granting the ability to cool down the stones themselves on enemies you hit. Put simply, literally every monster you hit with your unarmed skills will be struck by powerful lightning. Pair this with the aforementioned hollow palm technique to embrace your true unarmed prowess in combat. Another unique we're adding is Hinekura's Sight. Equip this amulet to be granted the power of the Mother of Death herself. This is reflected by granting you a skill called Foresight. While you have Foresight, your dodge roll no longer avoids hits. But instead, being hit while dodge rolling restores you to full life and makes you unable to die for a brief period of time. You'll notice when this does occur, a copy of your character appears and takes the full damage. This is you seeing that future, as if you hadn't been wearing the amulet. Ultimately, your in-game experience should be more streamlined. You'll be able to invest in your atlas trees sooner, engage with Pinnacle content faster, have less FOMO running said Pinnacle content, reach higher levels easier, and do all of that while finding many new chase endgame items. Talking about finding items is one thing, but what about crafting them? We've taken a step back and looked at some of our crafting systems to make some notable improvements. Let's start with essences, which suffered from an issue where the regular essences were effectively useless and didn't give players the tools or excitement that a crafting system should provide. To alleviate these concerns, essences are being changed in a few ways. Firstly, they're being changed to function like regals and add specific modifiers with specific values, meaning you know exactly what you're going to get. We found that players were often bottlenecked by regal orbs when crafting on the campaign, so this helps to fill that gap, allowing you to better upgrade your items. For example, this Lesser Essence of Flames, which will be able to add a flat amount of fire damage to your magic martial weapons. Secondly, we're adding many more tiers. That Lesser Essence of Flames, for example, has a regular variant and a greater variant too, adding even more fire damage with each upgrade. The intention of this is so that when you find one early on, you don't worry about holding on to it till later to use on a higher level item. You should feel free to use them as they come to get powerful upgrades during the campaign. Lastly, our highest tier of essences, now called Perfect Essences, will function like a Chaos Orb instead of a Regal. So it will replace one of the modifiers of the rare items with the specified one. The perfect essences often give something a bit different, with some opportunities to be pretty damn powerful. There are many different essences, each with many tiers, covering many of the more core modifiers you'd want on items early on, through to chase specialized ones for in-game. Speaking of in-game, we really wanted to expand our crafting options for late in-game crafting projects. You might have noticed that at in-game, you get way too many transmutes. wouldn't it be nice if some of those didn't drop, but instead you got something a little more powerful?
刚掉了
At higher levels, you can now find greater orb of transmutation and perfect orb of transmutation. These can be used on normal items to upgrade them to magic, ensuring that the modifier generated is of a minimum level. This is similar to how you find higher tier items on the ground, but for crafting.
就对了。
These higher tiers
输
will
出个
also
重铸
exist
石到底
for
会
orb
让你们怎样？
augmentation,
会杀了你们吗？
regal orb, exalted orb,
出个重铸石会怎么样？
meaning you can get all of the orbs required to take your item from
就让
normal
玩家
rarity
有方法可以让装备变白装，不就好了吗？
guaranteed
为什么要
high-tier
把事情搞那么复杂？
On top of these new core crafting currencies, we wanted to make sure there are powerful crafting bases to use them on. Now in Endgame, you can start to find exceptional items. These are items that drop at normal rarity and are perfect for your from-scratch crafting projects.
OK， 28Q，
They can come with
就
extra
是
quality,
比较高
up to
Q 的
30%,
路边装
or
又来
an
了，
additional
又
socket
是
to
一代
use
的
a
东
crafting
西，
socketable
而且
zone.
这是一代我觉得
And
超糟的东
yes,
西。
they can be corrupted for yet another socket.
干嘛啊？
You can also get exceptional unique items. To add
刚没
even
看完，那个
further
是
to
冰
your
点地狱，
crafting
刚刚左边
arsenal,
那把是
we've
冰点
added
地
a
狱，但
whole
我还没
suite
读
of
完
new
叙述。
omens to ritual content, and removed some of the more unimpactful ones that weren't being used. Some of the new omens include the Omen of the Ancients, which will cause your next orb of chance to not
机
destroy
会
the
死不会
item,
摧毁物品。
but generate a random unique of the same class. Or the Omen of Sanctification, which is my new favorite. This will cause your next divine orb used on a rare item to reroll the values of its modifiers, allowing it to exceed the normal minimum and maximum values, raising the ceiling on the new most powerful rare items in the game. This omen will also cause your item to become sanctified. Sanctified items cannot be crafted, just like corrupted ones, so consider carefully when you use this. Another is the Omen of Chaotic Monsters, which will cause your next Chaos Orb to reroll all modifiers on a Waystone, allowing you to fix your maps if you get some modifiers that are not feasible for your build.
大哥死，大哥
Besides
死
these。examples, there is a huge variety of new omens for you to discover in your ritual encounters. With the release of Act 4, notably taking place in the
OK，
Karori Archipelago,
居然出现了
you'll be able
Hinikura
to
的
now
法
find a
师。
new currency item, Hinikora's Lock. Hinikora, the Karori goddess of death, has the power of foresight and is able to see many futures, including the outcome of your next craft. So, imbuing her lock onto an item gives you that same power too. For example, you'll know whether or not to use an Exalted Orb on your item, as you will know exactly what the outcome is. So, with all these new crafting improvements, it's safe to say you're going to be making some epic items, and not necessarily just ones for yourself. So given that, it's time to talk about a massive one.
OK， 交易系统。
It's finally here. The moment we've all been waiting for.
交易所。
Fully asynchronous trade. Over the years, the way players trade with each other in Path of Exile 1 has morphed from using the forums, through to the in-game chat, all the way through to using the website. These systems, in all their iterations, work for a while, but with each iteration, new problems eventually reveal themselves. Be it requiring you to be in your hideout too much instead of out there killing monsters, or never getting responses from people who are either AFK or just can't be bothered. In order to finally solve this, and this has been a long time coming, we're adding a new system that allows you to buy items from other players without requiring the seller to be present. They can continue farming, killing monsters, AFK as they please.
我感觉上面那边有卖出东西，火炬之光，我看他可以直接从那边领。火炬之光。
Assistant to ROG in the Meridian Free Traders Company. Over the last 2 decades or so, since Path of Exile 1's storyline, Faustus has handed down his knowledge and expertise to Ange, and she is now ready to take over his business. If you have a hideout unlocked already, you can immediately invite her there. If you don't have a hideout yet, you will need to acquire one. You can do this by completing a quest to defeat one of the bosses inhabiting an island in Act 4, allowing you then to take a slice of it for yourself, making it your new home and base of operations. Once invited to your hideout, she will now serve as operating your currency exchange, but also serve as the figurehead in your new trading empire. So, how does this new system work? In the existing trade system, you would list items for sale in premium stash tabs. And then when someone wanted one, you'd have to take it out for yourself and trade it to them. Now, instead of using those, you can give your items to Ange so she can sell them for you. Each item must have a price set. The prices are set using in-game currency items, such as Exalted Orbs or Chaos Orbs.
没有，它上面有一个加符号，所以应该可以再拿。
Once a price is set, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it on the trade website. Once a desired item has been found, you can hit a button, which will instantly teleport your character in-game to their hideout. Then, you can immediately purchase the item. And while there, if you want, browse their other goods. In case there's a good deal,
顺便看一下他其他装备，他摆的其他东西，因为你会一次看到他整个商业。
Currency the seller set for the price. It also costs gold to purchase an item, as Ange has bills to pay after all. As a seller, you'll immediately receive a notification when an item of yours is sold.
改下载死去！哦，这个我跟你讲，到时候赚100万金币，对不对？每天挂在交易市集，一直在那边钱滚钱，你就看谁不小心挂错，谁挂太低，一直钱滚钱。
As many people already acquired premium stash tabs for the purpose of the trade system, we wanted to add a way for you to convert your existing tabs to merchants tabs, if you want. You can do that here, on the website, but only if you purchase those tabs before the release of the third event. To clarify, the existing trade system will remain fully intact, so your premium stash tabs will not lose any of their functionality. We just figured people might want to switch over to this new system. We expect a lot of feedback around this new system and are looking forward to trying it out with you. As we are not able to test internally with an entire, thriving economy, there will certainly be some kinks to work out. Based on how the system goes, we will be adding it to Path of Exile 1 when ready, so any of the tabs you purchase will also be usable there later.
本来的那个机制还在啊，你要复制，你就放在原本的仓库，你不要放到商人仓库啊。
We're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Justice and Trial Executioner packs.
你为什么你要复制的你都已经玩到要复制，知道要复制，然后你还不小心把你的复制装备丢到商人仓库，然后摆一进了，然后别人用一进买你本体哦。那你们就放在本来的仓库就好了嘛。
Or progression in any way.
就放在本来仓库就好了没
The Justice series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Claim glory after defeating enemies, or inspire your allies by calling down the Banner of Justice portal. The Sphinx
其实这个很强，这个强的地方是在于很多1C 2C 的东西你会不想捡。你本来会有很多1C 2C 的东西不想捡，那现在你现在可以直接丢进去秒卖了。如果有一些传奇，它本来1C 2C 你不想卖，啊，你现在丢进去1C 2C 秒卖，那我觉得Juicy 团会变Juicy 团会变得更强。那种本来他们可能不屑捡的东西，会变得很好卖。总而言之，对玩家都是好事，对整个市场运行都是好事。没有啊，金币消耗，你本人挂你丢进去就要金币吗？丢进去就要金币啊，不是打出来，不是别人买才要金币啊。
Witness as she decides the fate
不过2代也没有金字马区，不缺金币啦。
Ascend to be amongst the gods or be banished to the underworld.
2代也没有金字马区，就真的没差。
The Griffin fledgling pet will be a courageous companion as you journey throughout Rayclast.
交易时间成本可以让我多刷2张图。真没想到交易所居然会先在2代测试，而且会先在2代测试。
This hideout comes with many different sections for setting up your home or base of operations.
这场就不错，我买了。
In order to travel between them, you simply just need to walk off the edge. Like a true eternal god, you can float between the mountains on the clouds themselves.
干嘛啦
The Trathan Executioner pack series also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. The Trathan Executioner finisher effect is a brutal display of Trathan might, crushing slain unique enemies as if they were bugs beneath your heel.
Okay.
As a Trathan Executioner, you're the perfect master for the ever-hungry carrion raptor pet. It has taken a particular liking to the taste of other pets, and at your command it will swoop down and eviscerate them, proceeding to satisfy its hunger by feeding on their corpse. The nobles of the 4 major Trathan houses had their mercenaries, but if their hired hands became notably irritating, they'd have to call in the Trathan Executioners. You can now embrace their methods and become brutality incarnate with the Cruel Trathan Executioner armor set. The matching Cruel Trathan Executioner cloak will shroud you in scarlet as you crush the skulls of your enemies and leave a trail of blood behind you as you build up a kill streak. Or use the alternate variant to simply put a skeleton on your back. Be bathed in blood as you mutilate monsters with the Cruel Trathan Executioner character effect. The swirling blood increases in volume as your spree of slaughter continues. Both this effect and the cloak use the same kill streak for tracking how much blood is shown. After a long and tiring day of executions, enjoy a relaxing game of dice with the Goblin Gambler's Hideout decoration. They'll definitely be playing fair, right? The Pulverizer map device brings a horrid efficiency to punishing the damned of Trathus. Each map you open will execute the next victims. This map device in its true ruthlessness tracks the total number of monsters killed, kills per second, and your largest kill streak up to the point of the map being complete. This is then displayed on the leaderboard, so you can take a measure of you and your friends' violence at the end of each map.
这个不能输嘞，这个输了就要在之后那个游判影片要写每秒击杀数200。你看我 CS， 看我 CS。丘比看我 CS。Let's
get into the Q&A. But firstly, I want to give a huge thank you for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, at 11 a.m. NZ time, or 4 p.m.
结果他打什么？他打张荒裂痕，打张荒裂痕，他那边说他每秒击杀200，打下水道，然后说他每秒击杀200。
At the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to seeing your experiences with Act 4 and its new bosses, fighting the Abyssal, trying new builds, and crafting new items. We'll begin
没有新武器跟新职业哦，
so
有空手，
please get your
空手
questions
算一种新武器吗？干他妈空手全部都用杖的，哪算呢？空手都用杖的。